Okay, so that's adding a new view controller visually by dragging out a view controller object and then adding the .h and .m file to associate with that view. And what that allows you to do then is access the underlying code, okay, and add methods in order to manipulate objects on this view. So we could go through that whole process again if we wanted to add another view. So for example, if you wanted another button on here, to access a third view, just go through the same process again, and we want a view controller, just drag it out, okay, and control click and drag and modal. And I won't go through doing all this again, but you should get the idea now that so adding more than one view controller and transitioning to that view is very, very easy. Okay, so I'll quickly run that. So there's our original, and then, well, yeah, there was nothing on that view, so you can see that those buttons have gone away, so the transition has occurred. Okay, so I'll just delete that for now. But that's how easy it is with storyboards to add a view controller and then add a transition. Okay, so that's adding normal views. Actually, before I go on, I'll just explain one thing to you. This arrow here, what that does is it indicates the what's called the root view. In other words, the view that comes on screen first. And this button is movable, so I could move it to this one. If I run this now, then the second view will be the view that comes on screen first. Okay, and of course it will probably crash if I hit that button, but you get the idea. So let's move it back to this one. Now this visual representation of the transition is called a segue, and you can click on it, and as you can see, it shows you which button is associated with the segue. But it will also give you in the inspector here, it will give you some options. So in previous weeks, where in code we've had to manually change the type of transition, here we can just do it by selecting a different option. So the default is cover vertical, but we could choose flip horizontal, for example. And when you push, it does that. Okay, so again, very, very easy to change something that in previous weeks we've had to write some code for. Okay, so that's adding views. What I want to do now is add a navigation controller. And navigation controllers are associated usually with table views. Okay. And again, like we've added the view controller, to add a navigation controller, we simply click and drag. Click and drag to add it. Now what you will see is that by adding the navigation controller, automatically a table view has been added for us. If you don't want a table view associated with your navigation controller, then you can just delete it. Okay, so if we don't want that table view, we can just delete it. So we have a navigation controller here, but it doesn't do anything yet, okay, because it's not connected in any way to these views. Okay, and we also have the root view controller being this one. And what we really want is that this is the navigation controller should be the first thing that's loaded. Okay, so we can do that by changing that to there. But now the navigation controller is still not connected to this view here or this view here. So how do we change that? Well, we simply control, click and drag. And then you'll notice that previously we just had these three options. Now we have a fourth option called a relationship root view controller. And that's what we want. So you select that. So now, when the application launches, the navigation controller will launch first, and it will make this view the root view. Okay, so it'll be the first one that you see. Now, with a navigation controller, what we get is a push transition animation from right to left. Okay, so the transitions associated with these buttons, okay, and I can get rid of that. So this segue here, that's related to that one, just delete it for now, because what we want is a push segue. Previously, we did a modal segue. Okay, so control, click, drag, and this time we want push. Okay, and because this view is embedded inside a navigation controller, it has automatically added the navigation bar for us. Okay, so, and because the navigation controller will automatically add a back button here, then we don't need this button, so we can just delete the whole thing. Okay, and we can change the title, first view, second view. Okay, and let's run that. Okay, so this is the root view, so the view that was loaded first, that's what we wanted, and then push, and it transitions to the second view via the navigation controller. And you can see that this back button has been automatically added for us, and it takes the title of the previous view. Okay, so we haven't had to make that ourselves. It's just automatically done that for us. So if we changed this to something else, then whatever we changed it to would be here. Okay, so that's what's known as a navigation controller transition, this pushing mechanism, so left to right and then back again. Okay, so with storyboards, adding a navigation controller and creating the transition, the push transition, is incredibly easy, and we haven't had to write a single line of code to do it.